William SEIZES Camilla's laptop, after guard finds deleted photos of Charlotte crying. Camilla had always been careful with her things, especially her laptop. It wasn't just a tool for work, it was her diary, her planner, and a little window into her private world. That afternoon, she had to step out for just a short while, an errand that would take no more than an hour. She grabbed her bag, checked the apartment door twice to make sure it was locked, and hurried down the street, her mind only half on her task. She had no idea that her brief absence would start a chain of events that would shake the trust in her home. William, her roommate, had been at the apartment that day. He wasn't supposed to be home until the evening, but his plans had fallen through, and he decided to spend the afternoon quietly in their shared living room. He noticed Camilla's laptop sitting on the desk where she always kept it. The device was open, showing the desktop screen filled with folders and files. William had always respected Camilla's privacy, but something about the laptop caught his attention that day. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was just idle boredom, but he couldn't help glancing at the screen. At the same time, a security guard, part of the building's staff, was walking his usual rounds. He passed by Camilla's apartment on his way to check another unit and noticed the laptop, which was logged in and left unattended. The guard was a well-meaning but nosy man. He believed in keeping an eye on things, sometimes a little too closely, thinking it was his duty to make sure everyone was safe. When he noticed the device, he paused. Something made him curious. He had never seen any issues in that apartment before, but the open laptop seemed like an opportunity to investigate something he could report later if needed. Without any malicious intent, he opened the device. The moment he clicked through, he noticed a folder that had recently been deleted, or at least, files that had been removed from the main desktop but were still visible in the recovery bin. They were photos. At first, nothing seemed unusual. But as he looked closer, he realized these weren't just ordinary pictures. They showed Charlotte, a friend of Camilla's, in a moment of vulnerability. Charlotte was crying, her expression raw and emotional, the kind of moment that most people would never want captured or shared. The guard felt a mix of surprise and concern. He wasn't sure what to do with what he had seen. It wasn't illegal necessarily, but it definitely felt like something private had been exposed. He knew William lived there too, and he figured it would be better if he informed someone who knew the people involved personally rather than letting it sit in his mind. So, he decided to mention it to William, thinking he might handle it better. When William learned about the photos, he felt a strange combination of anger and curiosity. How could Camilla have kept such personal images without telling anyone? Why would Charlotte's private, emotional moments be on a laptop in plain sight, even if deleted? He didn't know what to think, but he felt he needed answers. Something about the situation made him uneasy, and in a way, it felt like he had a responsibility to know the truth. Later that afternoon, when Camilla returned from her errand, she was carrying a small paper bag with a few groceries and a cup of coffee. She was in a cheerful mood, humming softly to herself, completely unaware of the storm that had quietly begun in her absence. She waved at William as she stepped inside. "Hey, I'm back. You won't believe how long the line was at the cafe," she said, placing her bag on the counter. William didn't respond immediately. He was sitting on the couch, holding the laptop in his hands. Camilla noticed his serious expression and felt a sudden unease. "What's wrong?" she asked, trying to keep her tone light, but her heart was starting to beat faster. "Camilla, we need to talk about this," William said, holding the laptop so she could see it. He didn't raise his voice, but his calm tone carried weight. "I saw some things. The guard showed me something on your laptop." Camilla froze. The bag slipped slightly from her hand, and she quickly steadied it. "What do you mean?" "What did he see?" she asked, her voice tightening. She already had a feeling she knew where this was going, but part of her refused to accept it. William took a deep breath. "Deleted photos of Charlotte. She's crying in them. Do you know what I'm talking about?" Camilla's mind raced. She had taken the photos to help Charlotte, not to embarrass or expose her. Charlotte had been going through a difficult period, and Camilla had thought that keeping a record might help her understand and support her friend better. She never intended for anyone else to see those moments. The thought that someone else, especially William, had seen them without her consent made her stomach twist with anxiety. "Yes, I know about them," Camilla admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I took them to help Charlotte. She was having a really hard time, and I thought maybe if I could keep track of how she was feeling, I could be there for her better. I didn't mean for anyone else to see them." William's expression was unreadable. He looked at her, trying to understand her reasoning, but his mind kept returning to the images themselves. Seeing someone in that vulnerable state, even if it was meant to be private, was shocking. And now that the guard had mentioned it, he couldn't ignore it. A part of him felt protective of Charlotte, as if he should have done something to intervene. Another part felt betrayed that Camilla hadn't told him about such personal content on the laptop. Camilla tried to explain further. "I deleted them afterward. I didn't want them to be on my laptop anymore. They were private. Charlotte trusts me, and I never wanted to break that trust." But William wasn't convinced yet. "Why would you even have photos like that? Why not just talk to her?" he asked. His tone wasn't hostile, but it was firm, carrying the weight of someone who felt he needed answers. The tension between them grew. Camilla felt cornered, frustrated that her good intentions were being questioned. William felt uneasy, unsure whether he should trust her explanation. The laptop, which had always been a neutral object, now seemed like a symbol of mistrust and curiosity. Both of them realized that the afternoon had changed something fundamental in their dynamic. Outside, the day continued as normal. People walked by, cars passed on the street, and the sun moved slowly across the sky. But inside the apartment, a quiet storm brewed, fueled by questions, assumptions, and the fragile nature of trust. Both William and Camilla knew that this wasn't just about a laptop or a few deleted photos. It was about boundaries, privacy, and the weight of secrets. As they sat facing each other, the room seemed smaller than usual. The laptop rested on the table between them, an unspoken reminder of the private world that had been unexpectedly exposed. Camilla realized that she would need to explain everything, not just to William, but also to Charlotte, who might feel hurt if she ever found out. William, on the other hand, knew that he had to decide whether to hold onto the laptop or let go, whether to act as a protector or let Camilla handle the situation. The afternoon stretched on, filled with silence and half-spoken words. Both of them felt the weight of what had happened, even though no one else knew. It was a moment of reckoning, the kind that comes quietly but leaves a mark. By the time Camilla finally put her coffee cup down, she knew one thing for sure: nothing would ever be quite the same in their apartment. It was just the beginning. Camilla sat on the edge of the couch, her fingers nervously tapping against the fabric. William was still holding the laptop, staring at it as if it were a puzzle he couldn't solve. The apartment was quiet except for the distant hum of traffic outside and the faint ticking of the wall clock. Neither of them spoke for a moment, each lost in their own thoughts. Camilla's mind was racing, trying to figure out the best way to explain herself, while William's thoughts circled around Charlotte's photos and what they meant. Finally, William broke the silence. "Camilla, I need you to be honest with me. I want the full story. Why do these photos exist? Why are they deleted? And most importantly, why didn't you tell me about them?" Camilla took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She had always known this conversation might happen someday, but she hadn't expected it to come like this, so suddenly, and with William holding the laptop like evidence in a court case. "William, I didn't mean for anyone to see those photos. I took them because Charlotte was going through a really difficult time. She was upset, crying, and I wanted to help her. I thought maybe if I could understand what she was feeling, I could support her better." William frowned. "Support her? By taking photos?" "Camilla, that doesn't make sense to me. Why would someone need pictures to help a friend? Why not just be there, talk to her, comfort her?" "I did talk to her," Camilla said, her voice rising slightly with frustration. "I spent hours with her. I listened, I stayed with her, I tried to help her calm down. The photos, they were never meant to leave my laptop. I deleted them because I didn't want anyone else to see them. I wasn't trying to do anything wrong." William's face softened slightly, but the concern didn't leave his eyes. "I get that you wanted to help, Camilla, I really do. But the problem isn't just the photos. The problem is that someone else saw them before you could even explain. The guard, he told me about it. I don't know how much he looked at or what he's thinking now, and now it's like your private life is out there." Camilla's stomach sank. She hadn't thought about the guard seeing the photos. She had been focused only on her intentions with Charlotte. "Oh, William, I never imagined anyone else would look at them. I trusted this apartment, and I trusted that my personal things would stay personal. I didn't want to hurt Charlotte, and I didn't mean for this to get out of control. William shook his head slowly. I know you didn't mean to hurt anyone, but that's not the point right now. The point is trust. Charlotte trusted you, I trusted you, and now it feels like all of that trust is fragile, like it could break at any moment. Camilla looked down at her hands, feeling a wave of guilt wash over her. She had never meant for any of this to happen. She had only wanted to help a friend, to be a good friend, but in doing so, she had inadvertently put herself and Charlotte in a difficult position. She wanted to explain more, to make William understand that her intentions were pure, but the words felt heavy and insufficient. The tension in the room grew. William remained silent for a while, his eyes fixed on the laptop. Then almost quietly he said, I don't think I can just let this go, Camilla, not yet. I need to make sure Charlotte is okay and that she doesn't feel betrayed. I don't want to cause problems, but I also don't want to ignore what happened. Camilla's heart sank further. She had feared this. She didn't want Charlotte to feel hurt or exposed. William, please, I promise I will talk to her. I will explain everything, but I need the laptop. It has work files and personal notes I can't lose. Please don't take it from me. William hesitated. His grip on the laptop tightened slightly as he weighed his options. On one hand, he wanted to trust Camilla. On the other, he felt a strong need to protect Charlotte, even if it meant confronting her. Camilla, I don't want to do this. But I feel like I have to understand the full story before I can just hand the laptop back. It's not about taking your things, it's about making sure nothing gets worse. Camilla felt a flicker of anger, not at William, but at the situation. She wanted to scream that he was overstepping, that he had no right to hold her laptop, but she also understood why he was doing it. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. William, I understand why you feel this way. Please don't make this bigger than it needs to be. I will talk to Charlotte. I will fix this. You don't need to hold on to the laptop. William's expression softened again, but he remained firm. Camilla, I want to believe you, I really do. But actions speak louder than words. Right now, holding on to the laptop feels like the only way I can be sure nothing is mishandled. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I can't ignore this. For the next hour, the two of them sat in tense silence. Camilla tried to think of ways to explain herself more clearly, but every attempt felt inadequate. William occasionally glanced at her, reading her expressions, trying to judge whether she was being honest. The room felt heavier with each passing minute, as though the air itself had grown dense with unspoken questions and uncertainty. Finally, William spoke again. Camilla, I need to know something. Did Charlotte ever ask you to take these photos? Did she agree to this? Camilla shook her head immediately. No, never. Charlotte didn't ask for them. She didn't even know I was taking them. That's why I deleted them. I felt guilty the moment I realized I had taken pictures of her crying. I didn't want to invade her privacy. I didn't want to hurt her. William leaned back in his chair, rubbing his forehead. Then why, Camilla? Why did you take them if she didn't know? Camilla's voice was quiet but firm. Because I wanted to help her. I thought if I could see how she was feeling, I could understand her better. It was supposed to be private. Only I would see them. I didn't mean for anyone else to find out. I didn't want to betray her trust. William looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. I get that, I think I do, but the fact remains someone else did see them, and now it's out of our control. That's what worries me. Camilla nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. She had never imagined that trying to help a friend could lead to this kind of situation. I know, William, and I'm sorry, I didn't think it through. I just wanted to be there for her. The apartment was quiet again. Both of them sat there, feeling the weight of the moment. The laptop sat between them, a symbol of trust and privacy, of intentions and mistakes. Neither knew exactly what would happen next, but both understood that the next steps would be important, not just for their friendship, but for Charlotte as well. As the evening sun began to cast long shadows across the floor, William finally spoke. Camilla, I'm not saying I don't believe you. I'm saying I need time to process this. And I think maybe we both need to think about how to make sure Charlotte doesn't get hurt. Camilla nodded again, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. She knew that William wasn't angry at her entirely, but she also knew that trust had been shaken. This incident would stay with them for a long time. She vowed silently that she would do everything she could to repair the damage, to protect Charlotte, and to regain William's trust. For the rest of the evening, they moved around the apartment in careful silence. Camilla prepared a simple dinner, while William occasionally glanced at the laptop, still unsure what to do with it. Both of them were lost in thought, realizing that one small lapse in judgment, one decision to take photos, had created a situation that was complicated, tense, and delicate. It was a lesson in boundaries, in trust, and in the importance of communication. Both Camilla and William knew that the days ahead would require patience, honesty, and careful steps. And although neither could predict exactly how Charlotte would react, they both understood that this was the beginning of a long, thoughtful process to make things right. The night settled in, the apartment quiet except for the soft ticking of the clock. Outside, the city carried on as usual, unaware of the small storm that had erupted in this apartment. Inside, Camilla and William sat together, separated by a laptop and a shared tension, but connected by a desire to do the right thing. It was not an easy evening, and it would not be an easy road ahead. But it was the beginning of facing the consequences, understanding intentions, and trying to repair what had been unknowingly broken. The next morning, the apartment felt heavier than usual. Camilla woke up early, still carrying the unease from the previous day. She moved quietly around the kitchen, making tea and preparing a light breakfast. The laptop sat on the dining table, a silent reminder of everything that had happened. William had stayed up late the night before, going through some of his thoughts, and now he was sitting in the corner of the living room with a notebook, jotting down notes. Camilla wasn't sure what he was writing, but the seriousness on his face told her that he hadn't let go of the situation. Camilla knew she couldn't avoid this forever. The thought of Charlotte kept returning to her mind. Charlotte was more than a friend. She was someone Camilla had always admired for her strength, her kindness, and her ability to stay positive even when things were difficult. The photos had shown a side of Charlotte that was private, and Camilla felt guilty that anyone, even by accident, had seen her in that vulnerable state. William finally looked up from his notebook and spoke. "Camilla, we need to figure this out. I can't just sit here wondering what's going on, and you can't either. We need a plan, something to make sure Charlotte is okay and that this doesn't get worse." Camilla nodded, swallowing hard. "I know, William, I've been thinking about it all night. I need to talk to her. I need to explain everything and apologize, but I don't want her to feel like she's being blamed or like I did something wrong intentionally." William leaned back in his chair. "It's not about blame. It's about understanding and making sure she doesn't feel hurt. The guard saw the photos and now it's out of our hands. I don't know what he might say or if he'll even mention it to anyone else. We need to act carefully." Camilla agreed. She knew William was right. The situation had grown beyond her control, and she couldn't assume that it would just disappear if she stayed quiet. "I'll call her today," she said. "I'll tell her everything. I'll make sure she knows that I only wanted to help her and that nothing was meant to hurt her." William nodded slowly. "Good, but don't rush it. Think about what you're going to say. And maybe you should show her that the photos were deleted, that they weren't meant to be shared. That way she'll know you weren't careless." Camilla agreed. She spent the morning preparing herself mentally. She thought about Charlotte's possible reactions, about what words would feel sincere, and about how to rebuild the trust that had been shaken. She also realized that she needed to be prepared for William's involvement. He had seen the photos and had his own ideas about what had happened. His perspective mattered too, and she wanted him to be able to support her when she talked to Charlotte. Around midday, Camilla decided it was time. She picked up her phone and dialed Charlotte's number. When Charlotte answered, her voice sounded normal at first, but Camilla could hear a faint hesitation, a small pause before the conversation began. It made Camilla's heart tight. "Hi, Charlotte, can we talk?" Camilla asked gently. Charlotte's voice was careful. "Sure, Camilla." "Is everything okay?" Camilla took a deep breath. "I need to explain something that happened yesterday, and I need to be honest about it. It's about the photos, the ones of you crying." There was a long pause on the other end. Camilla could hear Charlotte breathing slowly as if trying to process what was being said. "Photos? Camilla, what photos?" Charlotte asked finally, her voice soft but tense. "I took them," Camilla admitted. "I didn't tell anyone at the time. I only wanted to help you. I know it sounds strange, and I didn't want you to know because I didn't want to upset you, but I also deleted them afterward. I didn't want anyone to see them, and I certainly didn't want to betray your trust." Charlotte's voice trembled slightly. "You took photos of me crying." "Camilla, why?" "I thought maybe if I could understand what you were feeling, I could help you better," Camilla explained. I was trying to be there for you. I never meant for anyone else to see them. The guard at the apartment, he saw them by accident, and William knows now too. I want you to know everything so you don't feel blindsided. I'm so sorry." There was silence for a few moments, and Camilla could almost feel Charlotte processing her words. Then Charlotte spoke again, more softly. I understand, Camilla. I appreciate that you wanted to help. But it's strange, seeing something so private captured like that, even if it was deleted. I feel exposed, even though I know you didn't mean to hurt me." Camilla's eyes filled with tears. "I know, Charlotte, I never wanted to make you feel exposed. I was wrong for even taking the photos. I should have just been there, listened, and supported you without recording anything. I promise I'll never do anything like that again." Charlotte's voice softened. "I know you'll keep your promise, Camilla, and I appreciate your honesty. It's just a lot to process, but I want us to stay friends. I just need a little time to feel okay about this." Camilla nodded, even though Charlotte couldn't see her. "Take all the time you need, I'll respect it. I just wanted to be honest and make sure you knew I never intended to hurt you." After the call ended, Camilla felt a mix of relief and continued anxiety. She had been honest, and Charlotte had accepted her apology at least partially. But she also knew that trust would take time to rebuild. William, who had been quietly observing from the living room, looked up as she sat down. "How did it go?" he asked. Camilla sighed. "It was intense, but I told her everything, and she seems willing to forgive me. She just needs time. I think maybe it will be okay." William nodded, still cautious. "Good, but remember, Camilla, this isn't just about saying sorry. It's about showing that you've learned from it. Charlotte needs to see that she can trust you completely again. And we need to make sure nothing else happens that could make her feel unsafe or exposed." Camilla agreed. She realized that William's involvement was not just a source of tension, it was also a form of support. He wanted to help ensure that Charlotte's trust wasn't broken again. And she appreciated that, even if it felt difficult at times. The afternoon passed slowly. Camilla worked on organizing her files and making sure that the deleted photos were truly gone. She checked the recycling bin, double-checked her cloud storage, and made sure there was no trace left anywhere. William watched her work, occasionally asking questions or offering suggestions. He wasn't confrontational, but he wanted to be thorough, ensuring that no accidental exposure could occur again. As evening approached, both of them felt a sense of cautious relief. They had faced the immediate crisis, had an honest conversation with Charlotte, and had taken steps to prevent further problems. But both knew that the situation was still fragile. Trust had been shaken, and even though apologies had been made, the process of fully restoring it would take time. Camilla reflected on the events of the past day. She realized that her intentions, no matter how good, could have unintended consequences. She had learned a difficult lesson about boundaries, privacy, and the importance of communication. She also understood that trust wasn't just about actions, it was about perception, timing, and honesty. William, too, reflected on his role. He had acted out of concern, perhaps a little too quickly, but his intentions had been to protect Charlotte. He recognized that his curiosity could have caused more harm if mishandled, and he resolved to be more careful in the future. The incident had taught both of them about responsibility, caution, and the delicate nature of friendships. By the time night fell, the apartment was quiet. Camilla and William had shared a simple dinner, and though the tension had eased somewhat, they both remained thoughtful. The events of the past day would stay with them, serving as a reminder of how quickly things could spiral out of control when trust and privacy were involved. And though the immediate crisis had passed, both knew that the journey to fully restore trust, both with Charlotte and between themselves, was just beginning. It would require patience, honesty, and consistent care. But for now, they were willing to take the first steps. It was a day of lessons, reflections, and cautious hope. And while it had been challenging, both Camilla and William knew that facing the situation honestly was the only way forward. The following days were tense in ways Camilla had not expected. Though she had spoken to Charlotte and explained everything honestly, she quickly realized that the situation had started affecting more than just her and William. Their circle of friends, co-workers, and neighbors seemed to sense that something had changed, even if no one knew the full story. Camilla felt the weight of responsibility more heavily than ever. She had intended to help Charlotte, yet now it seemed her good intentions had triggered a ripple effect she hadn't anticipated. Camilla spent most of the morning in quiet reflection, trying to focus on her work. The laptop was still on the dining table, where William had placed it for safekeeping. She had made sure that all private files, especially the deleted photos, were securely erased. But the presence of the laptop between them served as a constant reminder of the fragile trust that had been shaken. Each glance at it brought back the memory of the conversation with Charlotte, the pause in her voice, and the careful words she had chosen to explain herself. William, meanwhile, had taken a proactive approach. He reached out to a few mutual friends, carefully describing the situation without revealing sensitive details, just enough to explain why Camilla might seem distracted or why tensions had risen. He wanted to ensure that no misunderstandings spread, but he also wanted to protect Charlotte's privacy. Camilla appreciated his thoughtfulness, though at times it made her feel as though she had lost some control over the situation. Then came the unexpected. One afternoon, Camilla received a message from another friend, Anna, asking to meet in a quiet cafe. Anna's tone was casual, but there was an undercurrent of concern. Camilla knew immediately that this wasn't a simple social invitation. When she arrived at the cafe, Anna greeted her with a hesitant smile and gestured for her to sit down. "I've been hearing things, Camilla," Anna began gently, placing her coffee on the table. "About you, Charlotte, and William. Are you okay?" Camilla took a deep breath. She realized that the news was spreading faster than she had anticipated. "I'm managing," she said carefully. "Yes, there were some private photos of Charlotte that I had taken. I deleted them and I've explained everything to her. But people are starting to find out and it's complicated." Anna's eyes widened slightly. "I see, that must be stressful. How is Charlotte handling it?" "She's okay for now," Camilla replied. "She's upset that the photos existed at all, but she understands I didn't mean any harm. We're taking it slowly, rebuilding trust. That's the important part." Anna nodded, but the concern on her face didn't fade. "I get that. But you have to realize, everyone will form their own opinions, whether or not you mean any harm. Even if you acted with the best intentions, people will talk, and sometimes their assumptions can make things worse." Camilla felt a lump in her throat. Anna was right. She had acted with pure intentions, but now that the information had leaked, she had no control over how others would interpret it. She realized that her private actions had public consequences, and the lesson was harsher than anything she had imagined. When Camilla returned home, William was sitting on the couch, reviewing his notes from earlier in the week. She explained the meeting with Anna and the concerns about gossip spreading among their friends. William listened carefully, nodding occasionally. "This is exactly why I wanted to hold on to the laptop, Camilla," he said quietly. "I wasn't trying to control you, but I wanted to make sure that if anyone else found out, we would have a chance to handle it responsibly. It's not just about Charlotte, it's about all the people who might be affected by this." Camilla nodded. "I understand now, William. I didn't realize how far-reaching it could be. I thought it was just me and Charlotte, but it's bigger than that." William's expression softened slightly. "It's always bigger than we expect. That's why we need to be careful, honest, and proactive. You've already done the hard part by talking to Charlotte. Now we just need to manage the fallout and make sure nothing else escalates." Over the next few days, the tension escalated subtly but noticeably. Friends who had once been casual and relaxed in their interactions started asking pointed questions, trying to understand what had happened. Camilla found herself repeatedly explaining, carefully choosing words to protect Charlotte's privacy while being honest about her own actions. She was exhausted by the emotional labor, realizing that even when intentions were pure, perception mattered just as much as action. One afternoon, Charlotte herself called. Her voice sounded calmer than the day of the first conversation, but there was a trace of sadness beneath it. "Camilla, I just wanted to say thank you again for being honest. I know it wasn't easy for you to tell me, and I appreciate that. But I need some time before I feel fully comfortable again." Camilla nodded, even though Charlotte couldn't see her. "Of course, Charlotte, I understand completely. Take all the time you need. I just want you to feel safe and trust me again." It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Camilla realized that rebuilding trust would take time, patience, and consistent actions. Words alone were not enough. She would need to show through her behavior that Charlotte's privacy was always her priority. Meanwhile, William took it upon himself to ensure that no further accidental exposures could occur. He helped Camilla organize her digital files, installed stronger security measures on the laptop, and even suggested that Camilla use a separate device for personal files in the future. Camilla appreciated the help, recognizing that William's concern was grounded in care, even if it had felt intrusive at first. Despite their best efforts, rumors began to circulate among their wider social circle. Small, casual comments hinted at curiosity about the situation, even if no one knew the full story. Camilla felt anxious, knowing that misinterpretations could cause harm to Charlotte or further strain their friendship. She realized that the consequences of her actions extended beyond just the three of them. Her private decision had unintentionally affected multiple people. One evening, Camilla and William sat together, reflecting on the situation. "I never imagined it would get this complicated," Camilla said quietly. "I just wanted to help Charlotte, and now it feels like everything is unraveling." William nodded. "I know, and it's not just about the photos, it's about trust, privacy, and communication. This is a lesson for all of us, but we can handle it if we stay honest and careful. We just have to be patient and keep our focus on what's right." Camilla sighed, realizing how much she had learned in just a few days. She had discovered the fragility of trust, the importance of boundaries, and the ripple effect that even small actions could have. She had also learned about forgiveness, patience, and the need to be proactive in repairing relationships. In the days that followed, the tension began to ease slightly. Charlotte gradually regained confidence in Camilla's intentions, though she remained cautious. Friends started treating Camilla more normally, though some curiosity lingered. William continued to support both of them, ensuring that no further incidents occurred and that privacy was respected at all times. Camilla reflected on the experience, realizing that life often presented challenges that tested character, honesty, and relationships. She had acted with the best intentions, yet had faced consequences she had not foreseen. But through careful reflection, communication, and patience, she was learning how to navigate the complexities of trust, privacy, and human connection. The apartment, once a simple place of comfort and routine, had become a space of learning, growth, and reflection. Every glance at the laptop reminded Camilla of the importance of careful choices, and every conversation with William reinforced the value of honesty and responsibility. By the end of the week, the immediate tension had lessened, though the lessons remained. Camilla knew that trust could be fragile, but it could also be rebuilt through patience, care, and consistent effort. She was determined to do everything possible to ensure that Charlotte felt safe, that William felt respected, and that the mistakes of the past would not repeat themselves. It had been a challenging time, full of unexpected consequences and emotional strain, but it was also a period of learning and growth. Camilla understood that intentions alone were never enough. Actions, communication, and accountability mattered equally. She had faced the fallout head-on, and while the road ahead would require continued care, she was committed to walking it responsibly. And though the ripple effects of the incident would linger for some time, both Camilla and William had taken steps to manage the situation carefully, with thoughtfulness and integrity. The lessons they had learned were not easy, but they were invaluable, shaping their understanding of trust, friendship, and the delicate balance of human relationships. The following week brought a sense of cautious hope to the apartment. Camilla had spent the past few days reflecting on her actions, and though the weight of what had happened was still present, she felt a small sense of relief. Charlotte had responded positively to her honesty, even if she needed more time to fully trust again. William had also taken on a calm, supportive role, helping to manage the situation with care, and his presence was reassuring. Slowly, the tension that had filled the apartment began to ease, replaced with a quiet determination to make things right. Camilla woke up early one morning, feeling a little lighter than she had in days. She poured herself a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the city come to life. The previous week had been stressful, exhausting, and emotionally draining, but she realized that she had learned a lot about herself, about trust, and about responsibility. She thought about Charlotte and the vulnerability she had witnessed in the photos. Those images, though taken with good intentions, had taught her that privacy was sacred, and that even the best intentions could have unintended consequences. William joined her in the kitchen a little while later, carrying a mug of coffee. "Morning," he said quietly, his usual calm demeanor in place. He placed the coffee in front of her and took a seat at the table. "How are you feeling today?" Camilla smiled faintly. "Better," she admitted. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I feel like I finally understand the lessons, even if it was hard to go through them." William nodded. "It wasn't easy for any of us, but sometimes the hard lessons are the ones we remember the most. The important thing is that you've acknowledged them and are taking responsibility." They sat in silence for a few moments, sipping their drinks. The apartment, which had felt tense and heavy just a few days ago, now felt lighter, filled with a sense of quiet reflection. Camilla realized how much she appreciated William's support. Even though their relationship had been strained by the events, his concern had never been malicious. He had acted out of care for Charlotte and a desire to protect both of them from further complications. Later that morning, Camilla decided it was time to reach out to Charlotte again. She wanted to check in and see how her friend was feeling, to continue rebuilding the trust that had been shaken. She picked up her phone and dialed Charlotte's number, her heart beating a little faster than usual. Charlotte answered after a few rings, her voice soft but steady. "Hi, Camilla, how are you?" "I'm okay," Camilla said honestly. "I wanted to check in on you. I hope you're feeling better and that things are going okay. I know we agreed to take things slowly, but I wanted to make sure you know I'm still here for you." There was a pause on the other end, and then Charlotte spoke. "I appreciate that, Camilla. I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I know you didn't mean any harm, and I can see that you're being sincere. I'm still processing everything, but I feel a little more comfortable talking to you now." Camilla felt a wave of relief. "That's all I want, Charlotte. I want you to feel safe and know that you can trust me again. I'll never do anything to break that trust, I promise." Charlotte's voice softened. "I know you won't, Camilla, and I'm willing to try and rebuild what we had. It might take some time, but I think we can get there." After the call ended, Camilla leaned back in her chair, feeling a sense of calm she hadn't felt in days. She realized that honesty, patience, and consistent care were key to repairing relationships. It wouldn't happen overnight, but she was willing to put in the effort. She also knew that William's support had been crucial. He had helped ensure that no further complications arose and had guided her through the process with care and responsibility. That afternoon, William and Camilla sat together in the living room discussing plans for the future. "I think it's important that we set some boundaries," William said thoughtfully. "Not just for you and Charlotte, but for all of us. Privacy, trust, and communication need to be clear so nothing like this happens again." Camilla nodded. "I agree. I've learned that even with good intentions, if boundaries aren't respected, things can go wrong. I think we should also make sure to be open with each other so that we can avoid misunderstandings in the future." They spent the next hour organizing their shared space and their digital files. Camilla created a separate folder for personal items, and William suggested stronger security measures for sensitive information. The process was practical, but it also felt symbolic, a way of rebuilding trust, not just with Charlotte, but with themselves and each other. A few days later, Charlotte came over to the apartment. Camilla was nervous, unsure how her friend would react, but when Charlotte stepped inside, she smiled warmly. "Hi, Camilla. Hi, William," she said. Her tone was light, though there was a careful awareness in her eyes. "Hi, Charlotte," Camilla replied, feeling a mixture of excitement and relief. "I'm glad you came. It's good to see you in person." They spent the afternoon together, talking casually about everyday things, work, and mutual friends. The conversation was relaxed, though there was an unspoken understanding that certain topics were off-limits for now. Charlotte's demeanor was gentle, but she clearly appreciated the space and care Camilla had taken. William joined in occasionally, ensuring that the environment remained comfortable and supportive. By the end of the visit, Camilla felt a renewed sense of hope. The trust between her and Charlotte was gradually being rebuilt, and the tension that had dominated the apartment for so long was finally easing. She realized that relationships were delicate and required constant care, especially when trust had been compromised. That evening after Charlotte left, Camilla and William reflected on the week. "It feels like things are slowly returning to normal," Camilla said, her voice soft. "I still have a lot to learn, but I feel like we're moving in the right direction." William nodded. "We are. And remember, Camilla, the important thing is that we faced the challenges honestly. We didn't avoid them, we didn't lie, and we took responsibility. That's what makes the difference." Camilla smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude. Thank you, William, for everything. I couldn't have handled this without your guidance and support. William shrugged modestly. I just wanted to help, and you've learned from it, which is the most important thing. Life throws challenges at us, and the way we respond shapes the kind of people we become. As the night settled in, the apartment was quiet and peaceful. The events of the past days had been difficult, but they had also brought valuable lessons. Camilla reflected on the importance of privacy, the fragility of trust, and the power of honesty and communication. She understood that good intentions alone were not enough. Actions had consequences, and careful consideration was essential in any relationship. William, too, reflected on his own role. He realized that while his initial reaction had been intense, his concern had been necessary to prevent further complications. He had learned that curiosity and care needed to be balanced with respect and discretion, and that supporting friends sometimes meant guiding them gently through their mistakes, rather than criticizing them harshly. Over the next few weeks, life gradually returned to a sense of normalcy. Charlotte and Camilla continued to rebuild their friendship, sharing laughter, conversations, and moments of trust. William maintained his supportive presence, helping ensure that boundaries were respected and that everyone felt comfortable in the apartment. Camilla also took steps to strengthen her personal habits and responsibility. She became more mindful of how she handled sensitive information and made a conscious effort to communicate openly with both William and Charlotte. She realized that her intentions, while well-meaning, needed to be paired with careful thought and consideration for others' privacy. By the end of the month, the apartment had returned to a calm, harmonious space. The tension that had once dominated their lives was replaced with understanding, care, and respect. Camilla felt a sense of accomplishment, not because she had avoided mistakes, but because she had faced them honestly and had worked to make things right. One evening, as she sat by the window with William, sipping tea and watching the sunset, Camilla reflected on the journey they had taken together. She realized that life's challenges were not just obstacles. They were opportunities to grow, to learn, and to strengthen relationships. She felt grateful for the support of her friends, the lessons she had learned, and the chance to rebuild trust that had once seemed broken. William looked at her and smiled. You've come a long way, Camilla. I think we've all learned a lot from this experience. Camilla nodded. We have, and I'll never forget it. I know now that trust, honesty, and communication are priceless, and that protecting the people we care about requires both thought and action. The apartment was quiet, but the warmth between them was clear. They had faced challenges, made mistakes, and learned from them. And in the end, they had emerged stronger, wiser, and more connected than ever. It was a journey of growth, understanding, and reconciliation, a true lesson in friendship, trust, and the power of honesty. And though life would continue to bring unexpected challenges, Camilla, Charlotte, and William knew that they had the tools, the care, and the wisdom to face them together.